Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. Um, I'm going to jump right into this because it's going to be a little bit different for you, what I'm going to do. I want to talk about some things that are going on. And I entitled this Signs of Civil War because we really are in a civil war, whether we want to admit it or not. Now, I'm recording this just after Notorious RBG died. That's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And already, here's the thing that just kills me is before she was even, or before her body was cold, the Republicans were jumping on, hey, we got to hurry up and nominate a new person and get them on the Supreme Court before the election. And there's a bunch of hypocrisy about that because they did the opposite when it was Barack Obama getting to nominate a Supreme Court justice, and they stopped. They stopped it. They wouldn't even hold a vote. But now they say, "Oh, this is different." Yeah, it's different, but that don't mean it's not hypocrisy. But in any case, it is totally taken the attention, especially from the press and the media, is taking the attention off of the virus and the present residents' incompetence when it comes to that, and put it, on this whole battle that's going to go on over putting a new justice on the court. Now, why that's so important is that whether we like it or not, it appears at this point that they're going to get away with what they want to do. Okay? They want to shift the court solidly over to the right. That's the basic objective. They want to shift it totally over to the right, and because it's leaning that way now. But one of the justices has occasionally he sides with the liberals, so they want to change that and put a solidly conservative Republican on the court that will make it solidly conservative, basically right wing, basically white wing, and basically fascist. That's the simplicity of it. Let me say greetings and love and blessings to ABJ Jones and also Melanated Agenda. I'm glad you're checking in because what I want to deal with is something that is kind of, well, let me just put it this way. It might be what will finally get me jacked up because I want to talk about signs of civil war. Now we're hearing some terms used a lot of times lately. One of them is culture wars. You hear the right wing talking about culture war. That's simply code for civil war. And if you think that it's not, I want to take you back to several instances that did make national press that definitely show that there is definitely some things going on that look like civil war to me. Let me first take you to this particular incident because I've talked about this and people think that it's I was making it up. But I want you to read this. Because you know, in Portland, Oregon, there's been this. It started out with Black Lives Matters protests. And then white people got involved. At first, they were saying they were supporting Black Lives Matters. And then they took over the protests. And they got more and more violent with it. To the extent that the Black Lives Matters representative there said, hey, white people, y'all taking this into a whole different direction. Stop burning up stuff and all that. And they didn't. They kept on doing what they're doing. So it's gotten worse and worse. And until the fire broke out in the fires in California and reached all the way up to Oregon, they were protesting every night. It got to be over 100 nights. But here's something that happened, I guess about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I want you to read with me the first paragraph here. It says, the testing news conference followed a chaotic and volatile 24 hours in Portland that began when a caravan of about 600 vehicles packed with Trump supporters drove through Portland and was met with counter-protesters. Skirmishes broke out between the groups, and about 15 minutes after the caravan left the city, a supporter of the right-wing group Patriot Prayer was fatally shot. Patriot Prayer founder Joey Gibson identified the victim as Aaron J. Donaldson. He called the victim a good friend but provided no further details. Danielson apparently also went by the name Jay Bishop, according to Patriot Prayer's Facebook page. Now, here's what also happened. The person who was supposedly identified as being the person who shot this dude, later, either that same day or the next day, U.S. Marshals confronted that person and ended up shooting him to death. Okay, so he didn't get benefit of even an arrest, much less a trial and conviction. They did what we used to call held court in the streets, and they killed this guy. And you can't disconnect the fact that the dude that supposedly got killed by him was one of these right-wingers, Trump supporters, and they didn't waste no time of the U.S. Marshals going out and killing this dude. But the point I wanted to really make was up here at the very beginning when they talked about a caravan of about 600 vehicles. I don't want to slip past that because that's a hell of a thing. When you start thinking about 600 vehicles, now here's what I want you to check out. Check this out right here. You see that? You see that? That's what's deep. That was just a sample of the caravan. But there was 600 vehicles that drove through Portland. And there were reports that some of them shot paintballs at some of the protesters or the counter protesters, whatever. And that some others were spraying pepper spray on them. But the key here I want you to understand is that, think about that. Is that not a sign of war to you? That, they were saying, count in your head. Just start counting as we are talking and see how long it takes you to count to 600 vehicles. It's going to take you a while. Okay? It's going to take you a while. Now, This also happened in Portland. I'm going to show you this now. I want you to check this out.
Take a hike. Go. Go. No. Don't do that. How's that feel, you kid? No. What's the matter, you kid? Shut the fuck up. Get up, you fucking pussy. Here, I'll take that.
That's for everything that you fucking did to me, bitch! Told you I'd get you!
I'm sorry. Let's go.
See, these are Nazis, these straight up fascist Nazis, or whatever you want to call them, who are doing this. And it's not isolated incidences and all of that. Another one that occurred was up in Michigan. Actually, it had twice in Michigan. Back in end of April, beginning of May, there was an incident at the State House, the Michigan State House, where armed protesters went up in the State House because they were mad about having to be, stay at home and wearing the masks. And I remember when this occurred, I said, now, what would have happened if that had been black people going up in the Michigan State House with guns, like crazy, right? And I was like, damn. And here's what happened. Trump had goaded them because the day before or something, he had tweeted about liberate Michigan. Liberate Michigan. What kind of talk is that for a president to put out there? Okay? And then just the other day in Michigan, they had another armed protest. They're still pissed about whatever it was, and they even went to the governor's house this time as well as the State House armed. But because it's a carry state, carry conceal or carry open. But of course, that applies to white people. Now, I've been interspersing these graphics with graphics from a particular movie, which some people you all probably recognize is from Spook Who Sat by the Door. Because if a civil war does jump off, one of the things we have to be prepared for is the reality of a fight. Because somebody's gonna have to defend us against these armed people that I've shown you. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of these so-called, and I call them lynch mobs, fascist troops of the white wing. That's all they are. Klansmen, Nazis, all of that. Racist white people. And they are armed to the teeth, and they've gotten so bold about showing their arms, being bold about it, in our face. Okay, now we've seen a few instances where there's some black organized armed black folks, but trust me when I tell you this, there's already infiltration of those groups, the black groups. I know this is how they work. I've seen it before. You have to understand, when the Black Panther Party was the strongest, over 1/3 of the Black Panther Party chapters in the United States, the primary informant in the chapter was the person in charge of security. Yeah, over 1/3 of them at least. Those are the ones that are known now that were informants for the FBI or the police department. And they gravitated towards head of security because they were the ones who could say, hey, I can get us guns, legally, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So here you got armed black groups in this country today, and I guarantee you that there's informants in those groups. Now that doesn't mean don't deal with them. It just means understanding what's going on with that. We already know that whatever we do is going to be monitored and infiltrated, and they're going to get our names and addresses and everything else. In fact, most of us know they probably already got our names and addresses. For years I've operated on this basic premise that everything I do is being observed and everything I say is being recorded. That's how I've lived my life for the last 45, 50 years. So, I know some of y'all say, what? I ain't 45 or 50 years old. I know. But here's one of the scariest things in America, to white America. That one scene, the spook who sat by the door, that was the scariest scene of all in that movie to white people. Because in that scene, it showed, see, if you go back, even look at some of the other movies and TV shows from the period of the late 60s, early 70s, the movies that depicted black militants, they never did any real killing. They didn't do no real killing. They would talk stuff, and they might have one person that would be shown as a like a mad, an angry person that was mentally ill that might go off or something like that. But they never showed any organized armed self-defense or armed actions. So when Spook came out, and in that movie, you have to watch it. If you've never seen it, it's free on YouTube. You got to watch it because what it depicts was so scary to white people, it was not funny. And that particular scene was the one that scared them the most, because they said, ooh, these Negroes is killing people. They taking on the military. So you have to understand, whenever you hear them talk about calling in the National Guard, that's seen as being some kind of absolute control factor. But if there was an organized group of black guerrillas, they would wipe the floor with the National Guard, because the National Guard is not prepared for that. And that's why they try to make sure that we don't get that. We don't ever get that organized to have armed guerrillas in our community. Now, they don't mind. In fact, what they did was made sure that our young, especially young brothers, were mentally propagandized, mentally whitewashed to kill each other and us. But they won't take on the white folks, and they won't take on the police. That's on purpose. Because they couldn't win. I'm talking about the police couldn't win. As was said in the book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, is that we don't have to win. We just have to fight them to a standstill. with that, I'm going to close out for the day, because I think I've gotten the message out that essentially what I was saying was that these are signs of civil war. And we need to understand that they're signs of civil war. It's not a joke. Whatever you're doing, we got to, of course, still deal with the fact that we are in a fight for the vote, because that, what Malcolm said 50 years ago, 55, 60 years ago, it'll be the ballot or the bullet. So as long as the ballot is still the primary means of us exercising political influence, then we got to do that too. See, it's not a matter of just one solution. It's a matter of all these different things. Because everybody, nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. So one of the things we have to understand is that we got to be prepared for all these different ways. So I close with the end of the Spook Who Sat by the Door, and leave that in your mindset. And if you've never seen it, please spend the rest of the day. Go download it on YouTube. It's there. And there's several versions, but there's several that are good, clean, well uploaded versions of the Spook Who Sat by the Door. All right, and as always, I close with no justice, no peace, no love. KNOW.
Outbreak in the black section of Oakland brings to a total of 8 the number of uprisings by black guerrillas in cities across the nation. The president has declared a state of national emergency.